uh, like I mentioned, there are two halves. One is the framework, and then is the build. Right. And this particular session, we are focusing only on creative analysis. There are like many metrics, of course, we as marketers analyze and see and all that, but I'm going to focus only on the creative analysis part, right? And this framework, this is based on my own experience, what we use in general with clients. Of course, with each and every client, you customize that a bit, but in general, what are the kind of decisions that you use? You can bring in your experience, especially people who have spent a lot of time, a decade and all, in doing these things. You can always customize the framework, and Claude can give you output as per your framework and not necessarily what I'm telling or somebody else on the internet is telling you, right? So first thing, like, let's just look at like what is the kind of output that I'm going to share. So this is just once again, yeah. So this is you can see the dashboard over here, right, where it is telling me what are the different categories of actions that I need to take for each of the ads for this particular account. This is an anonymized client account where just the numbers are there. There's no data about like what the client is or what industry it is, and etc. Right, but just the thing is to appreciate what is the format of it. So if you see, like, based on certain benchmarks, it is telling me that there are two ad creatives that I should be killing. There are some ad creatives that there are none that I should retire, or fix audience of the ads, fix landing page of the ad, or refresh, monitor, unhealthy, and what is within review. Now, what these definitions are, like what each of these means, we will go into detail, but this is something that Claude is fetching automatically and presenting this dashboard. This is not something that I have custom, like we have built it once, but then the data, etc., is being provided by Claude. And something else also we have done interesting over here, which is the thresholds. So for example, generally what I use in my practice is that if an ad is having a lifetime or 90-day frequency more than 2.5, we generally start retiring it. Now, this threshold could be a bit different based on the industry. It could be maybe a bit higher or lower, and you can very easily like change the controls. So let's say if you want to go with a more stricter frequency, you can do that, and the dashboard changes. So no numbers changed over here, but probably if I make so if you see, when I made it changes to 3, there are some ads that change the category on in terms of what action needs to be taken, right? And the dashboard is then talking it about the different videos, what are there, or statics that are there. And I've intentionally anonymized all this data, not to showcase what the client is and all, but for example, this particular ad, it is showing that there is a hook rate of 1.2% and hold rate of 2.4%. Both are weak. So it is a concept which is not working, and we are spending a lot. So we need to kill that particular concept, right? So this is a way in which a lot of this analysis can be done by Claude, and it will get presented to you in a form that you can take actions directly, right? Now, how do we build this, right? Again, like there's a lot of data over there. There's no point. Of course, it is anonymized to go into the detail of each data, but you get a sense that this kind of a dashboard can be made. Now, what are the basics of it? What I'm going to cover in rest of the session is what are the building blocks of it that you use to build this kind of a dashboard within Claude, right? So coming back to the presentation. So like I said, the first half, I'm just talking about the framework, which is the marketing part of it. I'm not going to talk anything about Claude and AI in the first 10 minutes of the framework. And if we just look at the numbers, what basically any funnel, what ultimately matters for us is the cost per result, right? Whatever, be it an acquisition goal, etc. The cost per result is what mattered. And if we have to put a mathematical formula to it, there's a cost per impression divided by 1,000, the click-through rate, and the conversion rate. These 3 rates sort of give us insights into what part of the funnel is right or wrong. If it is cost per impression, it is basically the media and audience, or if it is click-through rate, who tapped, and conversion rate is, of course, after tapping and landing on a page, how many people actually filled the lead form, or whatever your conversion goal is, right? Now, what moves each dial? CPM, it is based on audience. So if you have a very premium audience, then CPM will be high because Meta will charge you more to serve to that premium audience. Seasonality, right? If everyone is bidding at once, then that CPM can increase. If your creative is weak, because if there is low engagement, Meta is sensing that there is low engagement, then again CPM will rise. Or there is frequency saturation. It was performing well, but over time people have seen it multiple times, and so there's not enough engagement, and hence Meta is increasing CPM, right? And whereas CTR, which is the click-through rate, how many people are clicking on the ads, is driven by hook of the ad. What is the first frame? What are people seeing? Offer clarity. What are we offering? What is the creative to audience match? What format and thumb stop? And similarly, cost per result is sort of inherits everything like the CPM, CTR, as well as conversion rate. But within conversion rate, there is more of landing page clarity, what is the promise match, etc. and all. Now, as if you have spent decent amount of time in marketing, you would already know this, right? But I just wanted to clear the basics in terms of what are the metrics we are going to use for our analysis, right? Video gives you two more signals, right, which you do not get in a static ad, which is a hook rate and a hold rate. And the way it is defined is a hook rate is a 3-second play by impressions, right? So impressions would be number of people who have seen your ad, and then how many of them completed 3 seconds versus like maybe people who just scrolled, they did not even complete 3 seconds, which means the hook was either good or bad, right? Similarly, hold rate is people who have completed 3 seconds, how many of them actually went ahead and completed 15 seconds, which is defined as a through play, or they completed the ad in case the ad is less than 15 seconds, right? So that is defined as a hold rate. Hook rate gives you an idea how interesting the first look of the ad was, whereas hold rate gives you an idea how what is the stickiness of the ad. If they started watching the ad, did they complete seeing the ad for a long time or not, right? So again, we are going to merge all these signals in a one decision tree to figure out what would be the our plan of action, right? So now if there is a bad cost per result, there could be multiple causes, and in terms of multiple actions that you can take. One is the creative, which is low CTR or a weak hook and hold, etc., which gives you a diagnosis that the creative is wrong. Or maybe audience match, which gives you the diagnosis that there are wrong people or multiple concepts all fall over here, right? Um, Audience saturation. Audience saturation is right people, but overserved, where the audience was right, but you served it too many times. And frequency is the biggest indicator, or a CPM rising is an indicator of that. And fourth is the conversion rate, right? So these are like different factors or different metrics which or different causes of why cost per result could be bad. And if you see this 2 by 2, which is just used as diagnosis, which is if let's say CTR is healthy and CPM is normal, and still if you have a bad cost per result, what is actually affecting? It is the conversion rate which is affecting, right? Or if like CTR is low and CPM is normal, it means that there is a weak pull because people are not clicking on that ad, right? If let's say the CPM is high and CTR is healthy, which means there's some issue maybe in the audience side. If CTR is low as well as CPM is high, it is something which is not working at all, like the creative itself is not working, and that is penalized. And we decide actions based on these numbers and all, right? Now, the reason I'm going into through these in detail is because ultimately Claude or any other AI agent will do what you define as a framework. And that framework is very important. If you make errors in the framework in defining the exact reasons, etc., you will add a lot to the hallucinations. You can debate with Claude to define that framework, but that framework is the really critical thing which will tell whether or not your dashboard is giving you right insights or not, right? So this becomes a very basic of creating that that dashboard. Now, what we do based on all these metrics is that we decide on these different action items, and I'll help that explain with the help of a decision tree. Okay, so this is the crux of it. we saw metrics that we are going to measure and we are going to use it. And the decision tree is actually what how these metrics are taken into account, and that is then fed into Claude. So the next few minutes is the crux of the framework that we will be using to feed into Claude and actually build our dashboard, right? So this is the diagnostic decision tree, right? One rule above law. Ultimately, what matters for us? Cost per result, right? So as marketers, that is what our goal is, or in performance marketing at least, that's whatever is the result or given objective, that is the cost per result. All other metrics are there to help us figure out the context. So never ever confuse that if let's say some metrics like CTR is going bad, but you see it is performing at a good cost per result, it is fine, right? That's why CTR is bad will give you context on what to do with the ad creative and make it better, etc. But if your cost per result finally is in control, that is what matters. And when we have something like 10, 15 different metrics, it becomes very difficult. Like if you just name all the metrics that I showed just now, it is your CTR, CPM, conversion rate, hold rate, hook rate. All these metrics, sometimes it adds to the confusion. Okay, this is good for this ad, but this is bad for that ad, etc., etc. What should be your ultimate deciding factor? It should be the cost per result, right? And that will help you really refine the framework of what the action should be, right? Now, so what we do is that we define these actions, and there are two decision trees in this, based on the root cause, whether we wait, whether we fix the audience, whether we fix landing page, whether we kill the ad completely, or we move to tree B. So this is within tree A, and I will tell you what the details of tree A. And within tree B, the actions are whether we retire the ad, which means it was doing well, but we need to now stop it, or we refresh, which means the concept is still valid, maybe a different angle is required, or we just monitor it. It is doing decent, but we need to just be alert because maybe it is reaching high frequency, etc. And fourth is healthy, where everything is proper, right? So the what Claude system in this is doing is that it is taking all that data and demarcating the ads into these categories based on thresholds that we have decided, right? So so like I said, explain these metrics, right? Now, what is tree A, right? A bad cost per result, which liver broke. So the first gate is maturity gate. Is it like, did you have like enough impressions itself? Do not take a call if the ad is very immature. If there are only 1,000 impressions, I don't want to say that, okay, kill this ad or do XYZ, scale up this ad, etc. Right? So I will wait for maybe 10,000 impressions. Now, these controls that are there, these are things that you can vary up and down a bit based on your industry. I put some general numbers in terms of what we use in the industry, but based on your specific client, etc., these are the numbers that you can vary up and down, right? So the first gate is the maturity gate. So if let's say it is mature, is the cost per result within target? Yes, hitting target, then we will analyze it in tree B. If it is no, cost is bad, then we will look at the CPM and CTR. Now, CPM and CTR are two metrics. This matrix I already explained when I was talking about the metrics, but if CPM is normal and CTR is healthy and still cost per result is bad, which means ad platform is doing its job, or the ad is doing its job, because ad is performing, because the CPM or the cost per impression to serve the ad you are paying is decent. Your click-through rate is decent because people are clicking on the ad, but your cost per result is bad because probably once they land onto the landing page, or maybe the landing page is not loading, there could be n number of factors over there, but it is not your creative, right? And we are not getting into the landing page analysis in this session, but this gives you an indication that you need to solve the problem more on the landing page. If your CTR is low, the creative is weak. And depending on the further analysis, we will either decide to kill it or refresh it. If let's say CPM is high, then audience side we need to fix whether saturation is a problem or is it narrow, right? And if let's say both are wrong, then we definitely need to kill or refresh based on further analysis. Now, what is that further analysis? First, we will look at this audience side block. So in this audience side block, we have CPM high, CTR healthy. If frequency is more than 2.5, now these are thresholds that I personally use in some industry, and then I of course index it up and down based on industry. feel free to like innovate based on the industries that you are working with, which means that reach has plateaued. We are not able to reach enough. So we need to fix the audience, right? If frequency is normal, right? Now both are writing as fixed audience, but both have different meanings in terms of what needs to be done. So in first one, it is saturation. So we probably need to expand and refresh the audience, maybe change the audience targeting a little bit, expand something so that you are able to change that a bit. If frequency is normal and still CPM is high, which means probably you are targeting a bit of a narrow and premium audience, right? This is with the caveat that CTR is healthy. So because if let's say the ad was poor, it would not have come into this bucket of the CTR healthy bucket, right? So within this bucket, within audience, there are two different diagnosis that will be there. If let's say creative bucket is having low CTR, which is this particular bucket, right? Low CTR, these two different actions that come into being, right? Low CTR across multiple distinct concepts. So if let's say you have tested it, like you tried some 5, 10 different concepts, and in all those concepts, you are seeing that CTR is low, right? It is not performing well, which means that your audience is wrong. Because of course, it can be that you created 10 different poor ads, but given everybody's intelligence, I believe that would not happen. And if you have tested it again and again and CTR is still low, which means that the ad is poor. Okay. The the CTR part, right? कि अगर CTR हर जगह कम है, which means कि जो audience है उनका आप जो भी creative दिखा रहे हैं उसको they are not interested in actually clicking on those ads, and hence CTR is low throughout. Okay, so that's the problem, that you need to fix the audience. If let's say there is a low CTR on a static, then we will move to the history gate and we will talk about what history gate is, right? If there is CTR is low on video, then we will look at the hook and hold analysis, hook rate and hold rate. Now, just to keep it a bit, we explained what hook rate is and hold rate is. Can anybody wants to take a shot? What is the significance of hook rate and hold rate? Anyone can go ahead, yeah.
Oh yeah, so I can go ahead. So
Yes,
I'll go ahead with the hook rate, like hook rate, which is nothing but whoever like watched a video with at least minimum 3 seconds.
right. So it is 3-second video views by impressions. मतलब कि अगर impressions आ रहे हैं, and if people are seeing those ads, how many are clicking on that video? Not clicking on the video, they're seeing for those 3 seconds, right? Which means they are hooked by whatever you are showing in those 3 seconds. And what is hold rate? Anyone?
People staying on the video for more than 15 seconds, or at least like completing the video till the
Right.
end.
So that is through plays by, now interesting because Pooja mentioned through plays by impressions. Sometimes marketers do define it as through plays by impressions. I generally take it as through plays by 3-second views, because when you take it with impressions, it also sort of gets influence of the hook rate as well. So there is sometimes people will take just through plays by impressions, but I generally prefer taking it as through plays by 3-second views, which means people who completed your 3-second views, how many of them went ahead and completed the 15? Means your video is holding you enough, right? So that gives you an idea of the creative. And this matrix, this 2x2, tells you that if hold is strong, hook is strong, which means the creative is good, right? And you need to go to fix the landing page if the cost per result is still bad. If hook is weak and hold is strong, right? Which means that you need to maybe work on refreshing initial part of the creative. Now, based on history, either we will kill it or refresh it. What does this mean? I'll just cover this history gate a bit. It means that if let's say it never so what it means is that hook rate and hold rate, it is if it is weak, which means I need to look at history. If it didn't perform at all, then we need to kill it. If let's say it performed initially and then it became bad, which means that we need to refresh it, right? We don't need to by refresh I mean that the concept was fine initially, so maybe in the same concept have some other angle and try it out, right? if let's say the hold rate is weak and hook rate is strong, then it is a good opening, right? But it is not delivering the profits. Again, based on history, you might want to refresh it or kill the concept clearly. When we say kill, it is about the concept, and refresh is more about the angle, right? Within the same concept, also you can have different angles, right? And if it is bad throughout, then again, like the history gate will tell you kill or refresh, but you cannot take any inference from the current cut because both the aspects are bad, right? Yeah, Ramila, you have a question there.
Yeah, I have a question. Like, for hook rate, you have given like more than 30 is a good hook. For hold rate, what would be the percentage that you would take as a good one or a strong one?
So again, it varies a bit based on industry, but generally I take something like 15%.
Sure. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, let me just tell you from the Chrome tab. Okay, so this particular thing we saw, right, based on hook rate and hold rate, what we need to do. Now, what is tree B, right? In some of the metrics we saw that I had mentioned that we need to go to tree B. So tree B is basically where we figure out the fatigue part, right? Now, ad that had a healthy baseline greater than 2 weeks of delivery passed the gate. Spending now zero result this week, which means that it was doing well, but it is not doing well now, right? So we need to retire. Second metric, if cost per result is greater than 20%. Now, again, these numbers like 20%, some people might be more acute about it that, okay, I want to keep that threshold at 10%. That is a judgment call that you have to take, right? So this is based on industry that you'll have to define what kind of thresholds you want to take, right? So yes, plus saturated, or if let's say frequency is increased from 2.5 or CTR has dropped, then I would retire the creative, right? If let's say cost per result is greater than 20% on its own, but the frequency is sort of fine, but the cost per result decreased, which means that concept still works, I would refresh the creative. Up to 10 to 20%, I would monitor. I would queue a replacement. That means that I need to be working on new ads, but I'm monitoring that right now, right? Now, if CTR is down and saturated, but cost is holding, again, I would monitor. Like I had said initially, ultimately what matters for you is the cost component, right? So, and nothing else is what is critical. What is important is what is the cost per result, and no, then it is healthy, right? So this is the framework which we are going to feed into Claude, or I've already fed into Claude to give me that dashboard, right? And these are the main benchmarks, etc., which you also saw in the main analysis link that I had shared, right? Let me just open that again.